Help me welcome Emma to the stage as she talks us through a visible career.
Thanks so much, Rasheen. I just want to take a moment to say, look at this room. I don't think I've ever been in a room with 200 women in data before, and it kind of makes me feel very warm, fuzzy feelings. So, A, big thanks to Rasheen and the team for putting it together, and B, a big thanks to you all for coming out and supporting a great event. Yeah, that's me. Okay, I think I need a clicker or something. Where do I get one of those? The man with all the technology, thank you. So, hi, I'm Emma. In some of the programming, it says I work for Tesco. That's because that's what I used to do until a couple of months ago, when I took the very exciting plunge of going independent. Apparently it's the theme of the conference. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about data visualization itself, but also a bit about how do you build a career in something that doesn't exist yet. You know, you guys have got no idea what you're going to be doing in 5 years. When I graduated, data visualization didn't exist. Hans Rosling had not yet made his incredible TED Talk where all the bubbles fly up the screen and he capers around excitedly, which is what inspired me to get into data visualization. And yet somehow, when I look back, it all seems very inevitable. And so in building this talk, I was trying to think about how and why that is, and hopefully some of the things that I've done and I've learned I can share with you guys and will be helpful for you today. So this is me. This is an illustration I did for a book cover. I call myself a visualization director. Now that I'm independent, there was not really a word for what I do particularly, and so I borrowed from the agency world and thinking of what a creative director does. Somebody who conceives of an idea, somebody who explains it to the team, somebody who understands how you might implement that idea, that brand, and then who can QA everything that is built towards delivering that brand. That's what I do, but in visualization. And although visualization is a specialism, it's actually really, really broad. Oh yeah, this is what I do the rest of my time. Now that I work for myself, it's amazing. I work part-time for corporate clients, and the rest of my time I spend writing a graphic novel about how to think about data. So trying to take all the stuff that I've learned over the last 15 years and put it into a format where people, apparently guys, there are people outside of this room who don't love data like we do. I don't know if you've ever met any of them. I don't understand how they work, mostly. But they exist, and I think that it's important that we help them understand what we do and how we think. So that's what this project is working towards. So data visualization is an inherently multidisciplinary subject, right? Nobody, my 6-year-old niece does not kind of look up to me and go, Auntie Emma, I want to be a data visualization consultant when I grow up. It's just not a career that people kind of look at in that way. But it's built up out of a lot of other disciplines that are kind of more fundamental and more familiar to people, have been around a lot longer. You don't have to be good at every single one of these to be a data visualization expert. This is not up here to be like, hey guys, I can't remember what Celia called them, the hero, the one that comes in, throws open the door, and is like, guys, it's all right, I've got it. Absolutely not. This is where I started my career, okay? I did an operational research master's, and I was in love with statistical modeling. I had never found anything that made me feel kind of so warm and comfortable and happy as to be able to abstract reality in such a way that I could model it and come up with an answer. I was like, yes, the real world doesn't work like this, but suddenly I found a way to make it work in a way that I like and can manage and can understand. So this is where I started. This is a representation of a model that I built early on in my career. I was looking back to see if I could find something I created 13 years ago. I couldn't, so I've just made it up, I'm sorry. This is on the left-hand side is a representation of a Markov chain, and it's a model of a generic cancer care pathway. So the idea is the purple circles represent different states that the patients can be in. The lines represent the probabilities with which any patient can move between those states. All pretty dorky, all pretty cool. Not data visualization in any way, because what you get out of the back of that is an evaluation about which intervention is better, A or B, based on the time that a patient spends in a particular state under a particular care regime. But what I began to see was the people that I was delivering this analysis to did not think that Markov models were as cool as I did not understand how incredible it was to be able to understand a change in how somebody's health was with statistics. Really, all they wanted to understand is which is better, which treatment is better and why. Help me I've just included an extract of a table here. The tables could be gigantic. Help me understand what's important in that table of data and take that away to make a decision on it. And so the more this happened, the more I realized that actually I could make life easy for my stakeholders. So let's take a step back here to talk about why do we do data visualization? We do it to amplify our cognitive skills, right? We have two tracks of thinking as humans. We have fast thinking and slow thinking. And our fast thinking is the stuff that's judgmental. It's the stuff that's based on our experience. It's the thing out of the corner of your eye that tells you not to cross the road because you kind of half saw a car. That's not the thinking that looks at a table of data with 56 columns and 236 rows. Okay, that's slow thinking. That's deliberate ramming information into your brain piece by piece. And what visualization is trying to do is make the transition from one to the other, trying to say, okay, I kind of want to take advantage of your judgmental thinking. Take advantage is not the right word. I want to put it to good use, right? I want to help you understand why this Markov model is so damn exciting. And that's what we use visualization for. We use it to build in meaning to numbers. In the table on the left, raw data. The end user does all the work, no visualization. But as we start to layer in meaning as analysts, as visualization specialists, what we're doing is this amplification. As we abstract away from the raw data, we build in meaning, relationships, context, all sorts of stuff, and we can do that in visual ways that makes life easy for our stakeholders. And let's be honest, everybody loves it when we make life easy for them, right? Everybody loves to feel smart, and that's what we can do with visualization. So what I've put here is just a super basic heat map, right? The higher numbers have darker colors. I think this is not quite visualization yet. It's still trying to take advantage of those faster pathways, but we're not quite into visualization yet. However, something like this totally is. This is a fictional front page of a report, right? It's got your top level KPIs, it's got your spark lines, it's got the values for those the most recent metric, the most recent measurement of those spark lines, and then it's got some comparisons in there. And so what the graphics are doing here is pointing out really quickly what's good and what's bad, what's up and what's down. And that's where visualization comes in. That's why visualization gets really exciting. So although many of you won't be visualization specialists, you can all use some of the information design skills that I'm going to talk about to really improve your output, to make it exciting, and to make your stakeholders feel really smart. I didn't make this. I just want to get that out there. I don't know who made it. What it says, probably too small for you guys to see, is the evolution of the web. And so we've got a timeline, a bunch of different timelines, and then some of the swirly marks seem to represent different coding languages that the web is built with. But the swirls mean nothing. And that is at the opposite end of the scale, right? That is where some designer has decided that data visualization is cool, and the way that we do data visualization is just to put lots of cool graphics around it, but it doesn't have any meaning. Visualization sits somewhere in the middle. It's not just pictures, it's not just numbers, it's the kind of unique blend of those. And so I think, we've talked a little bit about careers today and what's valuable, how do you build a great career. Part of the reason I got into visualization was because I saw lots of designers making things like this, and lots of data people not being able to explain their numbers effectively. And I was like, I'm quite good at drawing. I could probably do that a bit better. And not just could I do it, but I'm excited to do it. And that is the absolute critical thing, right? To find your passion. I remember when I was about 18, a buddy of mine's grandfather gave me some career advice, which at the time I was like, how am I ever going to do this? He's like, what do you have to do, Emma? He's a terribly posh old man. Just find what you're excited about and then find someone to pay you to do it. And I was like, wow, from your perspective, that probably looks really easy. From my perspective, not so much. But it turns out that that's what I've done. I may not have thought about that being what I'm doing at any point, but I followed my passion. And when you're passionate about something, you're automatically going to be better at it than somebody who's more skilled but less excited. And it comes through, and you're exciting to work with, and then you go home energized, and it's just all around a better day. So this is what my skill set looks like now. All of that stuff over on the left-hand side, those design skills, I didn't learn them all at once. I think in terms of a career development, it can be tempting to imagine that you have to go out and learn 5 different languages, 3 different pieces of software, and then at that point you will be the expert. But I've just acquired these piece by piece out of interest by looking at my own work and thinking, oh, you know what, I don't like that font. I did love Celia's fonts, actually. It's a good choice. And using some of that deep interest in accuracy and meticulousness that I think is natural to people who work with data, applying that to design, and discovering that actually designers use a lot of the same kinds of skills. You can read about what fonts work well together and why. How do you lay out a page and why does it work? And actually, you can apply rubrics in the same way that data people apply models. And that was really exciting to me to learn. So I guess if you're thinking about what do you want to invest in your own career, A, look at what people aren't doing well around you. Look at what your colleagues are complaining about, people not doing well, because that's probably a gap where businesses are crying out to hire. B, look for your passion. And C, acquire skills that are kind of adjacent to where you are right now. Because then, even if you're not delivering them or being hired to deliver them right now, you'll be able to have great conversations with the people that you're collaborating with, and together you'll get much, much further. So I thought I'd just give you a few examples of some of the things that I've put together because I'm interested. And I think that's the other thing that's really important. No one is going to share the same obsessions as you, the same interests as you. So if you build out a portfolio that reflects those obsessions, you are already unique and people will come to you for that. So I built my career being good at Excel initially, but damn, I hate their default chart settings, right? They're the worst. Who puts a gradient on a bar chart? None of you, I hope, right? I hope you all scurry away to fix that later, no gradients. But it turns out that Excel has functionality that I didn't learn about until quite recently, where you can create templates. Once you've made a bar chart or a not pie chart, any other kind of chart look good, you can save it as a template and then apply it with one click. So I made this GIF to share with my team when I was working for Tesco. And the amount of emails I got about it being like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And nobody asked me to make this. I just found it really useful. It was something that I'd discovered that was exciting. And it turns out other people were excited about it too. This one's a little less in motion. This is called a Sankey chart for those who haven't seen one before. And I built it in Tableau. It's not out of the box functionality in Tableau, but there's an incredible set of resources online developed by Tableau users who are all trying to do exciting things with the product, share their skills, share their knowledge. So I'd highly recommend checking out the communities if you're interested in developing those skills. And I built this because one of the product directors that I was working for was complaining that none of his projects were delivering on time. None of his products were delivering, and he didn't know who was to blame. Everybody was telling him technology was to blame. I'm sorry if anybody works in technology. It always seems to be put on their shoulders. And so we built this just to, using the Jira records of what projects were in flow and what they were dependent upon. It turned out it was technology. But I had fun building it as well. I didn't need to build something that used non-out-of-the-box functionality. I could have done it in a different way. I could have done it with a table of data. Would it have been so powerful? Right, I've taken out the real data in here, but when you had the real data in, you could just see that everything was dependent on one other giant project. And it was really powerful to see that in terms of a data-driven display. Here's another example of the kinds of things that I use data visualization for. Because it doesn't always have to be big data. I know it's very closely tied to big data, but sometimes it's just about how do I take this, which when it was given to me was this 7 feet printout that kind of went like this. And yeah, the question that came with it, there were 2 questions, was one, how do I fit another row of data onto it? And I was like, oh, I think you might be asking the wrong question. I think it might be that you should be asking, what's the most important information on here? And how do we get that onto one sheet of data, onto one sheet of paper? Oh, what an interesting idea, Emma. Yes, it is. And sometimes that's all you have to do. Like when you have a specialist interest, it's just about looking at the same question in a different way. I'm sure everybody will have experienced it when a stakeholder says to you, yeah, the report's fine, but can you just add another 2 columns of data? And you think, oh, really? No, I don't want to do that. It's going to make it look really bad. And so it's about, when those questions get asked of you, being able to step back and think, actually, how do I show this a bit differently? So this is what I made, again, in Tableau. Very, very simple front end. The diagram that I showed you before was actually about customer journeys and the pain points that customers were experiencing on those journeys. And every single line represented a different kind of bucket of customers. Now, what I created here was something that visualized the same steps in the journey and categorized the problems by the size of opportunity to the client and the size of irritant to the customer. So as the product director said, oh, I just have to look for the big red balls. Yes, yes you do. Because that was the critical question, right? He wanted to know, what problems should I solve first? Not what are all of the problems I have, but where should I focus? And so I was able to build this to give that to him. And if he really wanted all of that other data, then as you can see on the hover over, that's where I kind of put all of that supplementary data. But it wasn't there kind of as a first view. So, away from visualization examples, on into more career stuff. Now, you know, I think there's so much that you guys can learn from each other and from your peers about careers and how to build them. But I thought that I would try and articulate the resources that I've used to build my career. So, obviously I've done it in an analytical way, because that's my background. I split it between online resources at the top and in-person resources on the bottom half. And then the axis along the center is about increasing cost. And so obviously we can't afford, and nor will our employers pay for us to go to classroom training every week of the year. But we should always be learning and trying to learn. So what are the other kinds of options that we have? Because this is classroom training, and I think that I've probably done classroom training maybe only one time in the last 5 years. That's not how I became a data visualization expert. I used a whole lot of other resources to do it. So over here on the left-hand side, you've got things that are absolutely free and where you don't have to talk to any other human beings. My favorite. I was the first person to sit down, I think, in Celia's set of questions before. So reading people's blogs, you know, blogs, again, God, I'm sounding so old. Blogs didn't exist when I graduated. But there are so many resources out there now of people talking about their passions, what they're excited about, what software they're using, what skills they have, what models they're building, what training they're doing. Use those resources, find people who are talking about what you want to learn about, follow them on Twitter. Probably don't follow them in real life. Not the best choice. Read expert interviews. So what are the magazines online or in paper? People still make paper magazines, right? I'm sure they do. Read those interviews and look at what people are saying about how they've acquired their skills, what the career steps are that they've made. Community boards. I was talking earlier about Tableau. I learned to use Tableau in 6 months just by sitting down and watching and doing all of their free training online, and then got qualified, got the certification. The resources are out there if you've got the excitement about it. And what I love about Tableau is that it's so freeing, right? It's easy to get excited about it. When you've been struggling with Excel for so many years, and you suddenly open up Tableau and you're like, wow, I can do what? It's easy to have that passion and that dedication to watch those videos when you get home at night. If you're into coding, Bento.io is amazing. That's how I taught myself JavaScript and D3. And then also the publisher O'Reilly has a whole host of books around data, big data, all sorts of different coding ones, management books. I highly recommend you go and check out their catalogs. Then to the in-person ones, you're all obviously making great career decisions already because you're here. Free conferences. Meetups as well, particularly in London. I mean, I could go to a different data visualization or data meetup every night of the week if I wanted to, and meet incredible people, inspiring people, learn how they're doing what they're doing, make connections to work on projects together. It's really exciting. Equally, I would say take those recruiter calls sometimes, even if you're not looking for a job. Like, I can totally speak to Rasheen. She knows what's happening in the market. She can tell you what skills are really hot. And that sometimes can help you decide, well, do I invest in learning X or do I invest in learning Y? once you've kind of figured out where you're passionate about, once you've done the self-learning that you can, and maybe you're like butting up against some problems that you don't know how to solve yourself, paid online learning platforms like Skillshare and Pluralsight are two that I've used that are really, really good. Skillshare is really strong in the kind of art design space if you want to learn any of those skills. And I would recommend as data people that you all Google information design and learn at least the basics of that. And then Pluralsight is much more in the coding space. And then last but by no means least, classroom training. And sometimes if you're learning a whole new discipline or it's a very complex idea, then classroom training is a good choice. I prefer it when I can get someone else to pay for it, but you know, sometimes that's not right. You can't make it happen. And then use the skills, right? The subtitle here, learn a skill, make a thing, put it in your portfolio. Even as data people, you should have portfolios, right? It's not limited to artists to have portfolios. When I'm hiring people, I love it if they can send me a blog, a link to where they've been talking about what they've been learning, what models they've been building, what dashboards they've been building. And obviously you have to anonymize it. You can't put your corporate data in there. Please, God, don't get caught doing that. Bad idea. But it makes such a huge difference if I can see that somebody is really motivated and excited about what they're creating, rather than turning off their computer at 5 to 5 and then, I don't know, doing something else with their lives. Probably doing something valuable, but I don't know. Sure, I can have a portfolio full of data visualization things initially that are just about stuff that I'm interested in, but it's always more powerful if you've done something that's maybe been published somewhere else, that you've worked on with a collaborator or with a charity. So I just thought I would show you a piece of work I did earlier this year with the Strange Horizons speculative fiction magazine. This is why it was relevant at the beginning that I put in that I'm a science fiction nerd. So I read science fiction magazines, guys. So every year for the last 5 years, one of the things that Strange Horizons has done is take account of all of the books that are reviewed in science fiction magazines and look at were those reviews written by men or women, and were they of books who were written by men or women, and then also look at the ethnicity of those people as well. This was the methodology the year before I did it. Anybody want to read that? No, didn't think so. So Neil Harrison is the editor of Strange Horizons, and I met him coincidentally through something, and when he heard I was into data visualization, his eyes lit up. He said, I think I've got something you might be able to help me with. And he showed me this. And I said, oh yeah, I think I can help you. And I turned it into this. That's me. That's how I work. That's why I have a constantly bad back. So there's 3 parts to what I helped him with. This is the first part. This is the methodology. Now, I think Georgina was talking earlier about wanting to come in with a PowerPoint deck that has every description of everything that you've done in order to create the data. And it's great to have it there. I think we should totally expose our methods to people, but sometimes it's okay to do it in a really simplified way. The second part of what I did, Andy's gonna change something over. I didn't prepare the tech guys for what my talk was gonna include, so it's gonna be a bit jumpy, I'm afraid. Yeah, we're getting there, okay. So the second part is a Tableau dashboard that I made. And I used the Tableau public forum to publish it. Oh, it's mysterious, ghostly. Okay, perfect. Yes, that's it. It's all good. So what this is 5 dashboards in a Tableau workbook. I published it up to the Tableau public website, and that meant that anybody could look at the results of this analysis that Neil and I had done. And not just that, but They give you code so that you can embed it into your website. And Strange Horizons is an online magazine, so they could publish it as if it was their own content. And it's stepped in terms of the level of detail it provides. So here you have a very simple overview, and then it goes right through to the last page is the table of data, because I know there are people out there that want to see the data table, always, right? We can't get rid of them. Okay, can we go back to the other thing? Awesome. So then the last part of the analysis I did for Strange Horizons was the results. And again, in a GIF format, pulling out the headlines from that Tableau analysis and doing it in such a way that it's super shareable, because let's face it, millennial attention spans are about 3.6 seconds or something. But this got out there, it was on Twitter, it was retweeted a huge amount, and also then picked up by the Guardian Books blog. And Neil wrote an article about the analysis that we'd done and published my visualizations in the Guardian, which I have to say, I was pretty damn chuffed about that. Personal goal achieved. And so I think that's the power of visualization, right? It's about being brave enough to say, how am I going to simplify? How am I going to abstract this idea? How am I going to share it with people? And this is really the last point that I wanted to talk about. How am I doing for time? Are we good? Yeah? Somebody's already talked about paying it forward to people, and that counts not just in a forum like this, not just in mentoring, but how do you share the things that you've learned and you've done with your team? Because I swear to God, you do not know what the person who sits next to you does on a day-to-day basis, what problems they're having, especially with a group of people who are quite introverted. I know, I put my hand up, I am the worst at asking for help, the absolute worst. I just want to solve it myself. So there are things that we can do to help others more proactively, and that is to codify what we learn in each project and share it. Share it with your team, share it on Twitter, share it with blogs. There are people that will benefit from it, however simple you think it is. And you will also benefit from trying to describe it to people. Like at first it'll be weird and awkward, and you're like, well, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I kind of tried this, and then I tried that, and then we eventually came to the answer. And that's okay. That's how stuff gets done. But as you start to articulate it for people, it'll mean that next time you do it, you'll have that recipe in your mind. So I thought I'd share a couple of examples of things that I've codified to share with people. Really simple. I do a lot of training for analysts around helping them learn about information design, understand how to share their ideas more effectively, and to move away from that question that is, how can I fit more on the page? So I get them to use this rubric, and it's super simplistic. So maximum 2 dimensions, and then you can have either or, right? You can't have too much complexity on a 2-dimensional screen or piece of paper. So you can choose to either have lots of different measures or have lots of different comparisons. But if you try and mix those up, you're forcing us to do cognitive leaps that become really hard work, right? Because if you have orders week on week, year on year against budget, and then sales against those same comparisons, and then demand, it just becomes bewildering for people. So sometimes 2 pages is okay, guys. It doesn't all have to fit on 1 page. So that's one thing that I like to share with people. And then this is another. When I'm designing dashboards for people, I like to sit with them, sit with the end users, understand what's helpful, what's not helpful. And I like to start off by sketching and then go into, I mean, this is not a sketch, but this is the kind of thing that I would sketch. Boxes on a page, sales in this box, next box, next KPI. And if you do it at this very kind of low fidelity resolution, your users feel really engaged and really listened to because you haven't spent hours and hours, days, weeks investing in building all the technical stuff that goes behind this. They feel more enabled to give you feedback that says, that's not the most useful way of doing it, and maybe this is more important than that, and you haven't actually included this KPI, which is what I use every day. Whereas if you email out a finished report, the likelihood that you'll get useful feedback is pretty much zero. So I would totally recommend going through a kind of a sketching and a high-level design phase like this. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is the thing that I think is most important, which is, how do you want people to feel when they look at the things that you create? Because you are in control of that as data people. Do you want them to feel excited, scared, motivated? Do you want them to feel happy? Whatever it is, I think you should make that decision before you create a report, create a dashboard. Because then everything you do can funnel towards that, rather than thinking at the end, oh, how shall I present that? And what is the person going to be thinking about when they do this? So I really wanted to create something for a client. Can we go to the, cheers. We're going to go to a video that kind of replaced a fish tank in the lobby of an office, right? But that was engaging and data-driven. So we looked at, we got the live data feed from what people were searching for on the website, and we designed a front end that moved kind of at the pace of breathing, or at the pace of a sedately goldfish. But that also informed anybody who stood in front of it and looked at it, what people were searching for on the website. And what they were searching for when you went past it on your way in the morning is different from what they were searching for when you went out at lunchtime or home at night. And in that kind of way, you can get information into that kind of hindbrain baseline knowledge for people. So in this visualization, it's attached to live data, as I said. You have the top 25 search terms. It's not going to play, is it? It is? Okay, awesome. It's very short, just a little clip. And, oh no, okay. Each of those particles represents like a 5-second data sample, and the color represents whether the search term is rising or falling in the rank. So you can see at this point, tomatoes is top in the rank, rolls, for some reason, people search for rolls a lot, is the 25th search term. And so, you know, it's not giving you as much information as a whole interactive dashboard, but what it is doing is helping people feel engaged with the data, feel an emotional resonance with the data. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. So a question from me. You've mentioned Tableau quite a lot in your presentation.
They don't pay me. I'm just saying this.
What happens if you know, one of the folks out here is in an organisation where they don't have Tableau and something else or nothing at all? You know, what's your perspective in terms of, are they pretty similar, or are there big differences? Should we all be fighting for Tableau in our firms?
I think that it's really important to distinguish between a skill and a tool. So for me, having a good design, learning your design skills, learning about layout and information design and what looks good on a page is entirely independent from using Tableau or Excel or anything else. It's completely easy to make something that looks rubbish in Tableau. I'm sorry, it's true. So I think that if you're interested in creating things that look engaging, learn how to do it in Excel, learn how to do it in whatever tool you have available. And then when the time comes for the company to look at investing in something else, you'll already have the skills to deploy in whatever it is that's going to make life easier for you.
Cool, thank you. I think it's hugely important to leverage what's there, because in, again, most cases, it's actually what you're doing with it rather than, you know, what's there to enable that to happen. Do we have time for a quick question, Roisin? Any questions in the room? Here we go. At least it's at the front.
Hi, Hi, I'm Ruby. So you mentioned earlier, you gave us your kind of design template for dimensions, and you said you'd restrict it to maximum 2 dimensions, for a user, for example, for visualization. Now, we get users come up to us all the time, clients, saying, I want to see this by this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and everything in one report. How do you go about restraining them? Or setting their expectations to say, you're not going to get all of this?
Well, I think the first thing to say is, I can totally do that if you can give me a 10-dimensional piece of paper. And that kind of lightens the process, because for me, you're right. People do want to see everything by everything else. And so if you can help them understand the trade-off between clarity and completeness, that can be really, really helpful. So you can say, okay, well, we can give you these 84 things, but what you're doing is A, increasing the time it's going to take to find the answer that you want, and B, reducing the number of people who are going to be able to ever find the answer in that, because you have to increase the expertise and the knowledge that they have. Also, can show them you can make drop downs in Excel as easily as Tableau. That's what I like. You're like, oh, we can change the dimension there. Nice. So you don't have it all on the front page all at once.